again, Tiger.
Standing room only.
All right, man, we got some crazy stuff to go over. And I do the smaller ones, so I normally don't let questions come in, but ask questions. Okay? Just don't ask so many questions. I say that with love, right? So I got some really good information. I think a lot of this, some of it you guys, you've heard things in diets around it, and the thing with it is that there's so much stuff out there, like what's right and wrong. That's the problem. Like what is good and what is bad. And so hopefully I can clarify tonight some of that stuff up. Cellular healing diet, it's called cellular healing diet because we're actually working with the cell. We're trying to go after the cell, and we're trying to fix the cell from the inside out. See, all the other diets try to manipulate the body in a way where it tries to trick some other kind of chemical to allow the body to kick into gear and lose weight. If you actually fix the cell, and you'll learn that tonight, you'll see how it actually, weight loss is a byproduct. See, we're not going after the first part, we're going after the byproduct. So let's talk about how messed up we are first, because we got to pre-frame this and put it in perspective, because I think we just don't understand really how bad it is. U.S. is dead last. We're sick, man. We're pretty bad people. We're last before the age of 2 and after the age of 60. We have the highest mortality rate of infants in this country. We're just really not good at doing this. Last for the potential years of our life. As you get older, we just have the worst quality of life in the world. We're second and last in health longevity. The U.S. is most depressed country in the world. Okay. U.S. world leader in adults and childhood obesity. Right? Okay, 22 pounds more, which is the average middle-aged person gains. You increase your heart attack by 75%. These are real numbers. This is what's happening. 15-pound weight gain doubles your risk of type 2 diabetes, which is in epidemic proportions right now. It is out of control. They've actually come up with another one called type 3 diabetes. Okay? They're actually creating diabetes as an autoimmune issue. That is going to be my next talk next month. 31st is going to be our next talk on a Saturday. And it's all about autoimmune issues. Okay? 61% of Americans are overweight, 75% by 2015. That's next year. That's a statistic, right? So 27% of Americans, 50 million people are obese, 41% by 15. And over the last 20 years, overweight children, 6 to 11, have doubled, and obesity, adolescent overweight has tripled. How much more can we pre-frame this, right? So here's a testimony of a patient that did this cellular healing diet, real simple diet, 6 weeks. She started a tremendous difference in the second week. Second week, you start to notice the difference right away. Since doing a diet, Dr. Joe's recommendation, I've lost over 21 pounds and all my aches and pains have gone away. I'm sleeping better, thinking clearer. Thank you so much, Susan. Robin, can I pick on you?
Sure.
Can you tell everybody what's going on here? What you've done so far? Your results?
I've done 2 weeks of the cleanse, and I'm almost to the end of my first week of the cellular healing diet.
Good. How you feeling?
Better.
Good. Was it hard at first? Was it hard?
Yeah.
Yeah, a little hard, right?
Yeah.
A little difficult. But what's the biggest thing you've noticed so far?
You mean like weight loss? Or?
You lost some weight, right?
Yeah, lost 17 pounds.
Wow, awesome. Good deal.
Woo!
Wow, that's
Yeah.
great.
Awesome.
And what's some of the symptomology you've noticed? Like as far as some of the other things we're feeling? Inflammation, I know we have some inflammation issues.
Inflammation has gone down. I've cut back on my blood pressure medicine and on my thyroid medicine.
Awesome.
And I dropped pretty much, I was taking all kinds of supplements. I'm like a cabinet full of supplements, and I've dropped most of those.
Good. Yeah.
And
Cool.
I'm just feeling better.
Good. And we're only in the beginning.
Yes, this is not even full 2 weeks in.
Yeah, great.
Awesome.
That's awesome. Good deal. Thanks for sharing. So here we go, right? Just going to throw this out quick. I want you to watch this. So these are data, right? So as of 1990, there was no data in these states, and you have less than 10%, more than 10 to 14%. So the colors. So just watch the colors change and watch the categories add on, okay? And as we go through the years, 1993, new category, right? There we go. 1994, darker blue. 1995, darker blue. 98, new category. 99, blue. 20%. 2000, new category 2001. That's 25% of that state is obese. Okay, here we go. 2002, 2003, 4, look at the orange. Up, new category 2005. Okay, 6, getting bigger. 7. So let's go back to that right there. Look at that. That's as of 2007. That was 7 years ago, half the country is red, and they've added another category.
And that means,
30% of the state is obese.
wow.
So Mississippi, see these states here, about 40 to 45% of the state is obese. It's nuts, it's crazy. So like, what happened? Like, I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Where do you think the ball fell apart? You know, where the whole thing fell apart. Where do you think the ball was dropped?
Fast food.
Fast food. That's a great one. What else? What else do you think?
Lesser income, so they're on food stamps, so they're buying processed foods from the grocery store. They're
Great point. Great. So the availability of food to get to you. It's a great point. Great point.
GMOs.
GMOs. You know what that is? Anybody not know what that is? Genetically modified organisms. So that's food that's been genetically changed or hybrid, or they've taken, like wheat. What they've done is they take different type of wheats and they kept breeding them together, and the wheat is now no longer the wheat we know. Genetically modified is very much corn, soybean, sugar beets. These are all things. What they did is they actually took the gene, changed it around, and they actually, what they've done is they take the pesticide chemicals and they genetically modified it into the food, and 100% of the corn in this country is genetic modified. Unless you're finding a source that says no, genetically modified. And I've raised, every time I eat corn, it bothers me. Every time. So I have question to believe that. Because the problem is that even when you have non-genetically modified crops, guess what happens when the crop's next to another crop that's not genetically modified? The wind blows the seeds over, and guess what happens to the crop? It gets contaminated. So our food system's really crappy. We were at a seminar last weekend, and the guy who runs the health, what was the health?
Oh, gosh.
World Health Federation, right? And his name was
Scott Tips.
Oh, I'm so glad you're in on this, because I remember that. Was that guy amazing?
He was absolutely incredible.
She's like, I couldn't stop thinking about it.
He's trying to save all of us. He's such an advocate for us.
So what it is, it's called the Codex, C-O-D-E-X, and what it is, it's a World Health Organization. They organize the food. They kind of do, you heard of this before? They kind of go through the foods and they tell the world what's happening with the food supply. Well, he applied for this position to apply to get into be a speaker. There's only so many speakers in the world that are allowed to talk. Well, his organization was allowed a grant way back when, but he's the only advocate in the world, man, that talks about GMOs, that talks about pesticides, talks about all things in our food supply. He's the only guy in the world. They hate him. When I tell you that man's got a big bullseye on his back, right? He is out there hanging his neck out for people, and yet no one has a clue. A clue. So, I mean, these are some of the things that I think was happening, right? What about our food pyramid? Remember that? Okay? Oh, well, let's have 6 to 11 servings of pasta, rice, and cereal. Let's have some fruits, veggies, yogurts, right? Cheese, and then the fish and oils and fats for last. How many of you think that's still good? Right? We're going to talk about what's right. Here we go. Hey, high carb diet I put you on 20 years ago. Give you diabetes, high blood pressure, and heart disease. Oops. There you go, right? So here's the new paradigm. This is the new thing right now. We want you to have this much veggies, this much fruits, this much grains, this much protein, and this much dairy. Who thinks that's better? Right? It's all better, right? Everybody thinks it's better. But who thinks it's still correct? This is what they're teaching kids. It's not. It's not correct. Okay?
Need more of it.
Here we go. There is an absolute fundamental idea that when it comes to weight obesity, the way you get fat is by taking in more calories than expected. Is also the gluttony and the sloth hypothesis, which means that the more you eat, therefore the heavier you get. What if I told you that's not true? Kind of blow you out of the water, right? Because we've been told that on the news 100 times. And what if I told you that if you exercise equals weight loss? We're going to go into that later. Is that true?
No.
It's not true. It's not true, right? We eat too much, exercise too little, and sounds undeniably, but this doesn't tell us anything about meaningful about why we get fat. It doesn't tell us the reason why. But here's the reason we get heavy. Simply. It's called weight loss resistance, the cellular issue. The cell can't function, the cell can't understand its fuel supply. Right? Every fuel, the body burns what for fuel? What's the number one thing the body burns for fuel? Fat, what else? Sugar, right? So what happens to protein when you eat a protein? You eat a big piece of chicken, what happens to it?
Gets changed to amino acids and sugar.
Sugar, right? If I eat cardboard, what happens to it?
Sugar.
Turns to sugar. It does. And so what happens is the crappier type of either protein or sugars, what happens to the type of way you burn it? You burn it empty. You ever hear empty calories? Well, that's junky food that there's nothing in it, so you're just not really burning anything, okay? So what happens is the cellular component of it, right, it becomes a hormone problem. So the hormone is the actual driver to the process. So it's cellular inflammation. So, I didn't even erase that. I should have erased that. Where's that eraser? Yeah, I'm going to draw on the board real quick. You guys seen this before. So I got an eraser. Can everybody see this up here this way? Okay. Okay. So, I've done this before, you can see it. Here's a cell, 2 layers, fat and fat. Okay, guess what those layers are made of? What kind of fat?
Lipids.
Lipids, what kind of lipids? Good call.
HDL.
Oh my goodness.
Cholesterol, look
Wow,
at that.
man, you knocking it out of the park. Cholesterol, all right. That's what that's for, right? Cholesterol. So, come on, Nash, you should know this. Right? So here we go. So what happens is on the cell, there's millions of little receptors, right? And these receptors are responsible for hearing hormones. They're responsible for hearing insulin, which is released from the pancreas. Come on, you guys. It's responsible for hearing every component in the body. But what happens is the body gets oxidized. Who's heard of that word before? Right? So what's oxidized? You deal with it every day. You got it, man. It rusts, right? So when we eat these chemicals in our bodies and we have these bad foods, it rusts the outside of the cell, and these receptors no longer can hear. Therefore, insulin can't get in, right? That's why thyroid hormones can't get in. What do you call it? Leptin, a hormone we're going to talk about in 2 seconds, can't get in. All these different hormones that are responsible for the processes that work our bodies can no longer get into the cell. And if the cell, if it can't get in, what happens to the cell? It dies. Right. So watch this. So you ever hear a hemoglobin A1C? You guys ever heard of that for your diabetic test? That's what happens. That's what that test is telling you. It's telling you that the cell dies because it can't get in. So the fats are responsible for that happy environment between inside and outside. That's what it's telling us. So watch this. Let's use insulin. Insulin comes in, attaches to the thing, opens a doorway up, and allows sugar to get in. Sugar goes in. It talks to the center of the cell, which is called a mitochondria. Don't worry about the word. And that makes energy. But it also makes waste. Guess what happens if this layer on the inside isn't working properly?
Waste can't get out.
Waste can't get out. So what happens to the cell then?
Dies.
Or
Mutates.
mutates. Thank you.
Dude,
You are not.
we're gonna teach this class next.
Yeah, you're on it. You want the controller? Here.
Wait, let's ask one more question. What does mutation of a cell mean?
Means it changes the genetic makeup of the cell.
And what does that produce?
Cancer.
Thank you
There
very
you
much.
go.
That's it right there. So when we talk about these things, we're not just talking about weight gain. That's why you're seeing all these disease processes and autoimmune responses coming out. It's because the cell, from that cellular component, goes out and turns into this or turns into that. Whatever the way it directs us and changes is because the cell is responsible for that communication. And the body innately in its wisdom, what happens is if I can't hear insulin, right? The body can't hear it. What is it telling the body to do if it doesn't hear it?
Make more.
You got it. And what is it? If it keeps doing it, what happens? Keeps making insulin, keeps making insulin, keeps making insulin, and you're not hearing it.
You wear out your pancreas.
You wear out your pancreas. What's that called?
Diabetes.
Type 2 diabetes. That's what that's called. Type 2 diabetes. That's where it comes from. You following us? Oh yeah? We like this? We'll put you later, man. Right? Okay, good. So here we go, right? What if we could check inflammation in the body? What if I could actually check it? We do a test here. We look for something called, I can never say the word, so don't be funny. Malodondahalide, is that how you say it? Malodondahalide? I can't.
Malondial.
Yeah, I always say it right. A byproduct of cellular lipid peroxidation of free radical damage. Think about how cool that is. We can actually check this in your blood. It's 50 times more accurate than blood testing if you're aging prematurely. This is also anti-premature aging because if you're wearing these cells out, the body can't reproduce, therefore the cells are dying faster and faster and faster. I mean, something like this is worth, what's it worth? I mean, an easy urine test, but yet it's worth to find out what that is. No one runs these tests. Nobody does this. We do it on our initial. Here we go, there's another patient, right? This is John. Weighed 268 pounds, the doctor told me I was 60 pounds overweight. My heart blood work showed that it was on a one-way path track to heart disease. All the men in my family died. This is true. My family died of stroke. I can't believe this. 48 years old. They all died. Everybody in his family. All right. So guess this guy walks in at 44 years old. His days are numbered genetically. Okay. I was on short and long-term insulin, 7 other medications since starting cellular diet. I've lost 28 pounds. I'm down to minimal amounts of insulin and only 1 medication for my heart, and that is half the dose. Cellular healing diet as a functional nutrition plan has changed my life, and more importantly, has saved my life. Saved his life. And his doctors didn't run the lab I wanted for him. They just kept giving him medications. And they kept saying, no, listen, if you keep taking this, it's going to change your life. What does it do? His labs are off the chart. All these little other lipid profiles in the background, they were off the chart. The man would have died. Lipids, here's leptin, right? So I was talking about this chemical leptin. This chemical is hormone, but this is so important, right? This leptin tells your body to burn fat. That's the chemical necessary to burn the fat. So what happens is if it can't attach to the cell and tell the cell to go out and burn the fat component of it, what happens? You just keep storing fat, right? You can't burn it. Ghrelin is another hormone that you produce that tells you I'm hungry. So this is why you cannot, diets don't work. Well, restrictive diets, how about that? Let me rephrase that. Restrictive diets don't work because restrictive diets, all they do is you're trying to starve down a process that, what happens? You kick on this other side, the chemical and the hormone is so strong, what's it going to do? It's stronger than the brain, and the brain just gives in. So this is why this chemical balance is so important. So leptin's something big. Factors that contribute to leptin resistance. So when you have leptin resistance, just like insulin resistance, okay, you can't hear it, you can't hear it, you can't hear it. Leptin's getting produced, but the problem is that the more you produce leptin, the fatter you become, because you're not burning that process. As with all hormone issues, leptin resistance is a complex issue with no singular cause, but there are many factors that negatively impact leptin. Fructose. What's in fructose? What?
Sugar.
Sugar? What is it? Where's it in now? What's it in? What
Corn.
foods? Corn. What else? What else? Fructose. Sugar. What's in sugar?
It's in everything.
Natural sugar.
Fruit.
Fruit. There you go. You said it. There you go.
Fruit.
Yeah. So what happens is any kind of fruit has fructose in it. Some have a lot more than others. All right. But corn is a huge one. And corn is in everything. Okay. Now here's another one, right? High fructose corn syrup. Here's what's interesting about high fructose corn syrup. When you eat high fructose corn syrup, it bypasses the pancreatic response to insulin and goes right to fat. So when you're eating high fructose corn syrup, and it's a lot of stuff, man, and when you're eating that stuff, you have no chance of an insulin response. It just goes right down the pipe, okay? High stress levels, because what happens when you stress out, you create a chemical called cortisol, right? You've heard of that chemical before, right? It goes into there. Consumption is a lot of simple carbs. Simple carbs are like your crappy carbs I was talking about earlier, the junky carbs. Lack of sleep, high insulin levels, right? Overeating, because now what happens is when you overeat, you actually trick the ghrelin and leptin process, because there's a regulatory valve. And what happens when you overeat it, it kind of dumps it the other way around, because the body gets confused. Exercising too much. Hello? Yeah. Didn't hear that one before, did you?
CrossFit.
Now what?
CrossFit.
Yeah, listen, man, exactly, CrossFit, that's the big thing, right? These people are dumping, man. They're dumping. I was that person. When this whole thing happened with me 2.5 years ago when I hurt my shoulder, I was running 25, 30 miles a week and exercising and lifting 4 days a week. It crashed me. I was already sick, didn't know it, but exercise was the nail in the coffin for me. And now I look back at it, I can unfold it. But at the time, here I am thinking I'm doing the right thing for myself, and the exercise is what completely tanked me. And grain and lectin consumption. Grain. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Here we go. So here's the cycle of leptin, so let's understand this, right? Adipose tissue is this tissue here. Leptin, boom, your hypothalamus, which is a gland that tells you what's going on. But it has all these functions and immune response. So it's not only that you're getting fatter, but you're decreasing your immune response, you're increasing your hypertension, vascular reactivity, heart rate, sympathetic activity, which is your fight or flight, and sodium excretion. This is why people always don't eat salt. It's going to give you high blood pressure. You know what I tell you to do? Eat salt. You need it if you're eating the right diet. Without the right diet, you're just feeding into this process. So that's important. You good? Sit in that chair?
Yeah.
You need ice? Yeah?
No.
Okay.
Thanks.
Don't worry about it. Okay, so your brain can't hear, right? So there's your normal hypothalamus. So again, we're showing the receptor component of it. See all the receptors? What happens is you start losing these receptors and you become leptin resistant. They can't understand it. They can't produce the chemical. It doesn't have the ability to do so. Ooh. So that's where that comes from there. Let's give you a visual. 3 weight loss myths. 3 weight loss myths. It's not just about calories in, calories out. It's not true. That is not true. Absolutely not true. Avoid fat, eat more whole grains, right? Totally not true. More exercise equals more weight loss. Not true. Here we go. Are we gluttons? Basically, you're saying is if you work out more, you'll lose more weight. That's, again, we kind of debunked that, right? Eat less, you'll feel better. It's not true. Here's all your common diets, right? HCD diet, Success Club, Mayo Clinic, all these different Dr. Oz stuff. Dr. Oz, man, what's on? He's got some good stuff. And then sometimes I'm like, man, where did you come from with your stuff? You know, the Taco Bell diet, you know, the grapefruit solution, the Sea Berry, Twinkie diet. There's actually a Twinkie diet. Someone actually came out with that, Twinkie diet. Was on there, so I lost weight with Twinkie diet.
That was my favorite.
Yeah, that was my favorite. We tried that one, that was good.
Yeah.
So they all have in common is that they're all fats, man, you know what I mean? And fat makes you fat, right? Truth, fat does not make you fat. It's the inability to burn fat. The inability to burn fat makes you fat. Good fats help your body burn fat. All right, here we go. So bad fats, what are they? There's something called PUFAs, right? Polyunsaturated fats. There's also something called HUFAs, highly saturated fats, right? And those are the ones you want. You want all the good fats. Fats are going to help you heal your cell membrane. Fats are clean fuel. So let's look at fuel, right? You got diesel fuel, and you got 87 octane, and you got 93 octane, right? Which one burns cleaner?
93.
That's right, right? And so what happens if you wanted the higher burning, cleaner fuel, actually, let's use this one. If I burned
Jet fuel?
no, not hydrogen. Yeah, hydrogen. If I burn hydrogen, you know, like the hydrogen cars, they burn 0 emissions. They literally have, their byproduct is water. So let's use that as the high fuel, right? So we have hydrogen car, burns, that's fat, okay? It burns that clean. The byproduct is simple. And let's use sugar as like 87 octane. And make it easy, right? Just make it simple and that simple. So what happens is that's what we're looking for. We want the cleanest fuel we can have. We want not the dirtiest fuel. The problem is we mostly put in dirty fuel, and we have dirty byproduct, and we can't live inside that realm. All right, so these are all the LDL. So what happens is studies show that people eat more PUFAs or vegetable oils, their LDL oxidizes, all right? So what happens, what that means is that everybody hears of LDL and HDL, right? So who thinks LDL is bad? Like, we've pretty much been told that, right? That LDL is the bad guy, right? What if I told you LDL is 100% responsible for cardiovascular health? Without that, your heart, that's it, it's over. Because what it does is it heals the inside lining of your arterial wall. So the arterial wall is made up of one layer of cells. And what happens when it gets chipped or chunked or irritated, the LDL is the one that heals it. And there's other chemicals that carry and breathe there, but the bottom line is that without LDL, you are in trouble. And LDL is a major, and is a good burner. Vegetable oil triggers a gene. It causes macrophages to become foam cells, which lead to plaques. So basically what happens is, it's saying that, yes, if you eat incorrectly, you can trigger genes. And that's a whole other lecture. I could go into that for 2 hours, right? Eating fats equals weight loss. Here we go. Oils, avocados, we want to do this. Some good peanut butters, organic peanut butters. Here we get into the details now, ready? Extra virgin olive oil, avocados, coconut oil. If you want to start losing weight, start taking a tablespoon of coconut oil at least once a day. Extra virgin organic coconut oil every single day. It will do stuff for your healing properties for your gut, healing properties for your brain, healing properties for your vascular system. You need it. We just need it, we need it. Okay? Butter. Eat butter. Load it on there, man. Load it on there.
No,
Yeah.
I don't eat margarine anymore.
Great.
I want the butter here.
But watch this though. Don't cook with the butter. Don't cook with the extra virgin olive oil. When you guys cook with these products, certain ones like coconut oil, grapeseed oil, hemp oil, walnut oil, these oils, sesame seed oil, these oils can handle high levels of heat. when you cook with these other oils, when you hit them a certain temperature, around 300, 325 degrees, they denature again and they become oxidized and they change it and then they actually become a problem. Raw cheese and yogurt. Watch what you're buying, man. A lot of these stuff in the stores are loaded in sugar. They're hidden in the sugar. And you don't want to eat it because what you're doing is the sugar is the feeder, right? The more sugar you get, the more oxidized you're going to be. And this is big. Grass-fed meats, eggs, and whole milks.
And cheese and butter.
And cheese and butter, right? True, it's correct. You want them grass-fed, true. So what happens is, what's the difference between grass-fed and regular fed? Let's talk about that for a second, right? The grass-fed, right, has omega-3s and 6s. You guys heard of that before, right? That's the fats. It's the grass-feds are a 4-to-1 ratio omega-3s and 6s, which is the ideal ratio. When you have any other one, it changes the bad to the good 20-to-1, and it becomes oxidized. This is why they say, oh, you eat lean meats. Well, because when you eat the other meats, they're fatty, and the fatty goes in and oxidizes the cell, and the cell wants to turn into something crappy, all right? Denatures it. Fatty fish, wild salmon, small fish, sardines, etc. Everybody's heard of that before. But do not eat, don't make good fats bad fats. Okay. Body can only use 2 types of energy. This is really, really cool. Sugar and fat. So right now, most of us in this room are sugar burners. So what happens is when you eat something, it's sugar, your body uses the energy, whatever it doesn't use, it dumps into storage, it goes into fat. That's the process it does. It's real simple. Because it's using that quick energy now, that it has to use that energy, it's the primary energy. If you take that primary energy away, the cheap fuel, and you leave nothing but the good fuel, what's going to happen? Burns it. Cleaner, faster, and more efficiently. But when I say faster, once it burns that fuel, your energy's up, your cleanness is up, and then what it has to do, where is it looking for more energy? More fat. Does that make sense? So once you get the body thinking to burn fat, it will automatically go into fat storage and burn fat cleaner. Because fat's a great storage, it's a good burner. But it doesn't know to burn the fat because it's always burning sugar. Does that make sense with that? So when you eat protein, and most of us are eating good proteins, hopefully, what you're doing is, you don't realize it, but you're not utilizing all the protein, so it's going into sugar, which is still becoming the same process. It's no different than eating sugar. So you gotta understand the difference between the two of those. Does that make sense? So you want your diet, I'm gonna show you the breakdown in a second of how much protein I want you to have, right? So look, changes the hormone leptin, it's important. Fix the hormone receptors, right? Change the fat process. It's not about calories or vert calories out, right? Carcinogens are chemicals that disrupt the function of hormone system that research believe that lead to weight gain and turn it on. So what happens is, you gotta understand, we're fighting this when we eat the fast foods and all this stuff, aspartame, MSG, all these kind of chemicals. What they're doing, aspartame, I'm sorry.
Potato.
I'm in thought here. What happens is, these receptors are here, and you're trying to bind, those toxins and chemicals block it. So therefore, you cannot hear the other chemicals. You can't hear the leptins, you can't hear the insulins. Well, guess what also blocks it? Toxins, like the corn and the GMOs and that kind of stuff, right? They block it there. And also stuff like mold, biotoxins, Lyme disease, right? Some underlying issues people don't realize they have. Viruses come in there and block it and irritate it. So like we do the program with people, what happens is weird. It's like I call it like a retrace. It's almost like we go this way, they get sicker and sicker and sicker, and then when we stop and we go back this way, it's almost like whatever the big disease was shows up again. Because it's like re-rears itself. It kind of shows up. And it's happening to a lot of people. And then we squash it and come up, and then we squash it again, and then we keep killing it. And as you keep breaking down that process, you start breaking down that disease process. Because that's what was blocking this whole process to begin with, or causing whatever disease process was going on. Okay, diet soda for weight gain? Come on, right? Pretty crazy, right? I mean, we all know better than that, right? So here we go. Inflammation causes toxins, bad fats, and sugars. I mean, that's the bottom line. It's real easy. Remove all refined sugars, all bad fats, canola oil, vegetable oils, cooking with olive oil. Remove all toxins from your foods, preservatives, colors, additives, and flavors. I know this sounds, sometimes when I do this stuff, people are like, well, how am I going to do that? It's incredible. It's impossible. No, it's not.